Last we talked about Johnny Somali, he'd been arrested following an incident where he live streamed himself trespassing on a construction site in Japan and was being held without yet being charged. But there's been a big update. Prosecutors have decided to not yet move forward with those trespassing charges and have instead moved to charge Johnny Somali with forceful obstruction of business following an incident at a restaurant in Osaka, Japan. What does that mean? Well, today we're going to find out. It's important to note that they don't appear to have completely ruled out charging Johnny Somali on those trespassing charges. The only source that I was able to find talking about what happened said that the prosecution on those charges had been suspended, which means, as far as I can tell, that if they decide they want to prosecute him for that in the future, they still can. But anyway, let's talk about these actual charges filed. Forcible obstruction of business seems to be the actual charge, with forceful being mistranslated in place of forcible by a number of people, at least to the best of my understanding. It's covered in Japanese Penal Code Article 234 and says, a person who obstructs the business of another by force shall be dealt with in the same manner as prescribed under the preceding article. The preceding article, Article 233, stipulates that the punishment for both 233 and 234 is punished by imprisonment for not more than 3 years or a fine of not more than 500,000 yen. Obviously, if they decide to just stick him with the fine, he'd be perfectly okay. But as we talked about last time, the Japanese government has incentive to throw the book at Johnny Somali. His escapades have been the talk of the town, and the media over there has not been very hesitant to discuss the incident or to call for the action of the government. This has even led to some Japanese government officials looking into ways that they could change their laws to prevent something like this from happening again. In this particular case, it appears he's being charged because he did a live stream inside of a restaurant, making loud noises and hurting the restaurant's ability to do business while he was there.
Yo, you're gonna get put in jail. We're gonna go to jail, bro. I don't know what. I didn't know that's it. Oppenheimer shit. It's Oppenheimer shit. It's that Oppenheimer shit. Walking out the restaurant. This is the Oppenheimer shit.
Which seems like a minor thing to be charged over, but basically Johnny Somali was just so rude, whether it was his constant making light of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, among other national tragedies he mentioned, his random altercations in the street where he was rude, and occasionally led to him getting attacked.
Discord right now, hop in Discord. Oh, whoa, what the?
The blatant disregard for safety or common sense he showed by entering an active construction site. Or maybe just the general and complete disregard and disdain he showed for Japanese norms, Japanese culture, and Japanese people in general. He's basically reignited the flames of xenophobia within Japan. It's almost impressive how unlikable he managed to be, especially in Japanese society, which is not one that really likes or permits so much rudeness. So I'd say that there's more than a decent chance he sees the inside of a cell. Granted, he already has. He's been held for weeks now under Japanese law that lets the authorities hold you for almost a month before they have to file charges to keep you. From what I hear, the Japanese authorities sometimes use that pre-indictment detainment as a punishment in its own right. There's many cases where clueless foreigners made some legal mistake and were held for that period, but never charged, with the authorities deciding that the inconvenience of being detained for that long is more than enough punishment. So I'd wager a bet that the fact that they decided to actually charge him with something is not exactly a good sign. Given Japan's 99% conviction rate, he's most likely going to find himself convicted in the future. The Japanese pretend to have an innocent until proven guilty philosophy, but that's mainly so as to not scare away Western tourists. Odds are you're going to be convicted the second they decide to indict you. I think that the best that he can hope for is some sort of deal where he gets a suspended sentence, which would allow him to leave Japan, and probably never go back, or at least ban him from entering the country for a few years. If he does get sent to prison, Japan's prisons aren't exactly 5-star hotels. It's small rooms, no one allowed to speak anything but Japanese, so he'd likely be unable to speak to anyone except a lawyer, visitors, etc. Hours of hard labor every day. That's right, Japan requires prisoners to do hard labor most of the time. It's basically the worst thing that could possibly happen to an influencer like Johnny Somali, who's never faced any real consequences in his life. And that's just the hardship he'd face at the will of the state while in prison. I don't know that the prisoners are going to be very friendly with a foreigner that's in there for being so disrespectful. Japan is a very xenophobic society on the best of days, but in prison, I don't know that Johnny Somali would have a very good time with them. I couldn't imagine spending the maximum punishment for this charge of 3 years in there, and that doesn't count any other charges they might file based on what he did before his arrest, or any charges he might catch for overstaying his visa while in prison. So that's the update. Basically, it's even worse for Johnny Somali than he could have hoped. There's little chance he ends up free for at least the next few years. If he does get out though, I don't think he will be quick to be so disrespectful in the future. Hopefully this experience has taught him at least a little. What do you guys think? Do you think they'll let him out with just a fine or a suspended sentence? Or do you see him toiling away the next few years in a Japanese prison, doing hard labor while completely isolated from the other prisoners? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. Have a great day, and God bless you.